Polestar's new large electric SUV is one impressive electric car. It's going to be made in the United States of China. What do I mean by that? Well, Polestar is saying it's going to be made in the US, and it will eventually. But not until about mid-2024. Until then, you guys in the US, you'll be getting the Chinese ones just like all the rest of us. The Polestar 3 has just been announced. It looks really cool. I love the look of it. Specs are interesting. Polestar will be making them in the US. That's good news. Plus, they'll be making them in China as well. But there's one glaring issue here, which has been pointed out by the media in China. In fact, as soon as they saw the Polestar 3, they were instantly very critical. Here's why. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone else. Hope you've had an amazing day. Hope you've had an amazing week, because boy, have I here so much EV news this week. I can't possibly keep up. It's awesome. Polestar 3. Now, I've got to say, my first thoughts, seeing the specs, seeing the features, seeing what this car is, I really like it. I love it. There is one issue I don't like. In fact, I like pretty much everything about this EV except one thing. So, I mean, that's pretty good, right? The fact that I like everything about it except one thing means that maybe Polestar have done a good job. Yeah, well, apparently the Chinese are saying it's going to be a flop. Will it or won't it? Well, first of all, let's have a look at the specs. Let's see what it's going to be. And then we can make a decision on whether or not the Chinese are right. Polestar has unveiled the Polestar 3. Now, this car, it's quite wide. It's one of the widest SUVs I've ever seen. Looks cool for that. I mean, wide cars look cool, I've got to say. Kind of like if you look at a sports car, for example, a Ferrari, a McLaren, Lamborghini, they're always very wide. However, could be an issue with parking. Europeans have seen the width of this car and they've been a bit critical on the width. They're saying it's too wide for parking spots, too wide for their narrow streets. So I'm not sure there, but anyway, I love the look of it. It's similar to a Tesla Model Y, but it's actually a bit bigger. It's 150 centimeters longer than a Model Y, or a little bit less. In fact, about 135 centimeters longer, but it's also about 20 centimeters wider than a Model Y. So the Model Y is not a narrow car. There's a significantly large number of vehicles in the Model Y's category that are narrower than the Model Y. But it's it's pretty narrow compared to the new Polestar 3. Now, what else do we know about it? Well, it looks pretty cool, and it has a pretty big battery pack. It's in fact a 111 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's got 107 kilowatt hour usable range. So it's a big battery pack. It's going to give range of about 600 kilometers, probably looking at a real world range of 550 kilometers. So for a car this size, that's quite a lot of range. Other good news here with the Polestar 3, right? It's going to be produced in the US. So clearly the Biden administration's, these new incentives are working. More and more manufacturers are just piling on, saying, okay, we're going to make EVs in the US. We have to. We don't have a choice now. They're not really saying that, but they're basically saying that. And what that means, I mean, that's good, because we need EVs to be not just made in China. 80% of the world's EVs are made in China. We need them to be made in other countries as well. So it's going to be good to see them being manufactured in the US. I think that'll bring the prices down, potentially for you guys in the US compared to what us in Australia, people in China and Europe are paying. The prices, that's the challenge here. Now, the interesting thing is, though, that Polestar actually committed to building this Polestar 3 in the US back in June of 2021. So nearly a year and a half ago, that's when they committed. So they didn't even know at the time that the Biden administration, that those rules would come into place. So it's interesting to see that they committed before this even happened. They said, "We will build in America for Americans," Polestar CEO Thomas Inglerath said last year. Polestar 3 is planned to be launched in 2022 as a premium electric performance SUV that will define the look of SUVs in the electric age. It will also be the first Polestar vehicle to be built in America. So the Polestar 3 will be built at the Volvo Cars plant in Charleston, South Carolina, and is intended to be one of the most climate responsible cars ever built. That's quite the statement. Polestar 3 is a powerful SUV that takes our manufacturing footprint to the next level, bringing Polestar production to the US. And Polestar said the new 3 has a next generation architecture that has been designed from scratch for full electrification, supported by Google's Android automotive operating system, infotainment system, and featuring high-end safety-focused autonomous features. Polestar intends to launch state-of-the-art and completely unique EV tech. This is their first iteration in that field in the US. Now, the 3 has 5 radar modules, 5 external cameras, 12 ultrasonic sensors enabling advanced safety features. It has smart zone and front aero wing continuously collecting information through forward-facing sensors, a heated radar module, a heat pump, and a camera. Polestar now says that this is a signature of the company's design. In the cabin, Polestar has 2 closed-loop driver monitoring cameras that will track the driver's eyes to emphasize safer driving. So if you're not paying attention when you fall asleep, the car will probably pull over to the side of the road. The cameras monitor the driver's eyes and can trigger warning messages, sounds, and even an emergency stop function when detecting a distracted, drowsy, or disconnected driver. So the battery pack. Range, what is it? Well, like I said before, 111 kilowatt hour pack, 107 kilowatt hours are usable, 379 miles of range, and it uses prismatic battery cells housed in a protective aluminium case reinforced by boron steel and liquid cooling. Polestar made a heat pump standard on the Polestar 3, helping with efficiency and range degradation, especially in colder climates, like in parts of North America and Canada. This would be a good car there. So Polestar is saying the Polestar 3 is actually available for order now in the US, not yet in Australia. It will come to Australia. It's coming to Europe as well. Prices have been announced for Europe, and it's around about 90,000 euros in its current base model specification in Europe. Now, Polestar 3 orders with an optional pilot pack with LiDAR from Luminar will be available from Q2 2023. And this package adds a supplemental control unit from NVIDIA with 3 more cameras, 4 ultrasonic sensors, and cleaning for both front and rear view cameras. This enables enhanced 3D scanning of the car's surroundings in greater detail and helps prepare the car for autonomous driving. So what about China? Well, production will begin in China for deliveries in 2023. Initial production for China starts in Chengdu with an incremental ramp-up phase, Polestar said. Prices, well, so $90,000 in Europe, $87,000 US in the US. First deliveries take place in the US in the 4th quarter of 2023. So they did say it would be delivered in 2022, but clearly it's been delayed a little bit by about 12 months. Now, I should point out, the first vehicles that will be coming to the US will be built in China, I believe. Production will then shift to the US in about mid-2024. So right now, if you buy this car, just letting you know, it will probably be built in Chengdu in China until mid-2024. Now, this is the big issue. People in China are saying it's way too expensive. They're saying in China, it costs way more than the competition. Is this true? Well, it is based on the Chinese prices that have been released. In Europe, it's a similar price to similar BMWs. So it depends on whether customers are willing to pay this for this over BMW. I'd prefer this to any BMW currently in this price range. There's similar BMW kind of vehicles that you can get in Europe. I think this is better for sure. Absolutely. I would prefer this, but depends. I mean, obviously German buyers probably would prefer a German car or a BMW if they had the choice. Now, it's made in the USA, but it will be too expensive for the US tax credit in the USA. So that's a bit of an issue there for Polestar. It's a $7,500 issue. That's a big difference, right? The price staying $90,000 US for the base model in the US, not getting the tax credit. That's a challenge for buyers. I think that could be a bit of a hindrance to its sales. Now, some people are saying the efficiency looks poor considering it's got a 111 kilowatt hour battery pack and only 379 miles of range. But this is a pretty big car. Keep that in mind. It's nearly 5 meters long. It's wide, like considerably wider than a Model Y. It's a biggish car. It's similar to, say, an XC90, the current Volvo XC90. It's probably overall a similar size to that. But there is one other issue that personally bothers me about this car. It's a big car, but it's got a really small boot. The boot has a volume of about 480 litres, which is really, really small for the size of this car. For example, the Model Y boot is about 50% bigger. So I'm confused what's happened there with the packaging. I'm a bit baffled by that. Now, getting back to the price. Here in Australia, for you Aussies, the price is going to be 135,000 Australian dollars for the base model. Polestar and Volvo, they're saying eventually they'll bring out a single motor version. That version will be cheaper, more affordable, probably about $15,000 less, about 10,000 US dollars less. That version will probably qualify for the US tax EV credit, but it's not going to come out for a couple of years. So in the meantime, this will be the only choice that you have in the US, in Europe, in China, and in Australia. Now, the Chinese, they're saying it's too expensive. It's going to fail because it's too expensive. And in China, yeah, let's be fair, they've got a point. They've got a point. There's heaps of options in China. Heaps. You don't have to choose this. There's like another 25 different products that are similar to this, cheaper. Yeah, in China, probably not going to sell very many. In the US, there's not a lot of options right now. So in the US, it could do all right. In Europe, there's not a whole lot of options either. In Australia, there's not a whole lot of options either. So in these other three countries, we'll see. It might actually do well. I love the looks of it. I love the style. I love the fact that Polestar are really going all in on EVs. They don't care about gas cars at all. They just focus on EVs 100%. What do you think about the car? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Would you consider getting one? Do you think it's too expensive, or is it a reasonable price and in your budget?